So this is Cupie. My wife and I, after we got married, we got a dog named Maxy, who was a Springer Spaniel, and she was a highlight of the family. She had this annoying habit of digging holes and bringing back ticks into the house because she just loved to dig. She also loved to swim. And she thought, well, we've got to have a second dog. We've got to have somebody for a Cupie. They got to have one of their own kind. So we went to a dog shelter, and there was Cupie. So we said, well, let's put Cupie and let's put Maxie in one of the cages with us and see how they react. So Cupie went over and he was going to hump Maxie, and Maxie let out a nasty growl and he backed right off. And we watched, and he never did try that again. And we thought, my wife said, he's the one because they're going to get along okay. He will back down if there's a problem. And that will prevent, any dog fights in the house, especially when we're out doing things. So Cupie came home with us, and he was skin and bones, and we wondered, what's the story with Cupie? Why is he so skinny? And the only thing we could think of, well, maybe he's been trying to make it on his own out in the wild and trying to survive on his own. And that seemed to be the case because we noticed that when there were gopher holes, Maxie, our other crazy Springer, she would go dig there and she would dig all kinds of holes and she would make a heck of a lot of noise, ripping the grass out of the ground with her teeth and big clumps of mud in her mouth. And oh, she was just crazy. She was just the highlight. And Cupie, on the other hand, he was very calm. He would sit beside a gopher hole and just wait. That way, when the gophers came out, he would have a meal. And although we never saw him eating a gopher, he did find a baby bunny one day that we took away from him because we didn't want it to get hurt. He had obviously been sitting at a hole, and baby rabbit came out and he grabbed it. But rabbit, I think it fared okay. We got it away from home. And this started to make a lot of sense, why he was so skinny and why he was so quiet when he was out hunting. This was how he survived. So Cupie, he became our very quiet black lab mix in the family. And him and Maxie, we went on road trips together, and they really loved to swim. That was their big thing, was swimming. I'd take them down to the creek and they'd prance around in the water, and I'd throw stones in it and they'd charge at the stones. And yeah, this was heaven for them. Cupie now belonged in a family, and he was loved, and he had all kinds of fun. Well, as dog stories often end, eventually dogs get old and get really sick, and their time is over. One day I let him out in the front yard, and he was acting very strangely. He would stand just like a statue and he wouldn't move. And we didn't understand that this was how dogs deal with pain. They never let on that they're hurting. And Cupie, being a dog that we figured lived in the wild, he had learned this well, too well. And so I went out there and I gave him a jab in the stomach, which a dog whisperer says, if you see a dog doing something that you don't like, that's what you do. Just give him a light jab there, nothing painful or hard or anything. But just to get their attention off it, to break their attention, like tapping someone on the shoulder, right? But he didn't move. He just looked at me, and I thought, Oh, Cupie, what's going on? Are you okay? And right away, my wife and I decided we better get him to the vet because something was seriously wrong. I didn't realize till that moment. And I had a tough time afterwards realizing that I might have been inflicting a lot of pain on him, and I just didn't realize that he was hurt. The vet did blood tests and stuff and said it's his pancreas. We don't know exactly what's going on. We'll need to do an operation to see what's going on with him. So that night before the operation, I went down to the vet and I sat there for maybe close to an hour, petted him. He was really sad shape, but he seemed to be doing better because he was on pain medication. But he was in real rough shape. The next morning, when the operation was to happen, we called the vet and told him, call us as soon as you know anything in the middle of the operation or whatever. As soon as you know what's going on, give us a call. So my wife and I, obviously, we've had him for quite a few years, and we were very attached to him. And it was really hard that morning because we went out walking just to do something to try and keep our nerves under control because we were really worried about him. A couple hours later, walking and sitting and talking over the situation and hoping he's going to be okay. The vet called and said his pancreas is completely black. There's hardly any of it that's even working. I don't know how your dog has survived this long. And we thought, well, it must have been the raw food. We gave him really healthy raw food, but no, it was something more sinister going on than what I realized. So there was nothing we could do. It was his time. And so we asked the vet to euthanize him so he wouldn't wake up in more pain from the operation. And the next day, we took his body to the crematorium, and I got to put him into that furnace where they cremate the bodies. And so we brought his ashes home, and for a month afterwards, I had a really tough time. I would feel so sad. It was completely abnormal. I never had this kind of an experience with a dog, being that sad that they were gone. I didn't realize that we were really attached to Cupie because he was such a loving dog. And that was the problem. Cupie hung on to the very end because he didn't want to leave us, but death had other plans. And so after that month passed, I wasn't troubled anymore by these sudden feelings of missing Cupid. And I sort of felt that perhaps he too, as spirit, was feeling a great deal of sense of loss with us and Maxy, our other dog. They were very close. Several months passed, and then I had a dream with Cupid. And it was a very odd dream because I had never had a dream with my wife's cousin and her husband before. That was new. They were walking on ahead, and Cupid was walking behind them. And it was a farm area, walking down a road someplace. And it was the oddest dream because Cupid and I knew what each other was feeling. And I was really surprised to notice that I didn't feel anything for him anymore. And he didn't feel anything for me. We were just walking along like he might have been when he was on his own, living in nature, trying to survive. It was a calming place for him. But when I woke up from that dream, I was really troubled about it because I thought, come on, Dave, you should have just gone over there and gave him a big hug and told him you loved him. You had your one chance to do that, and you didn't do that. You see, I had it all wrong. He didn't need me to go over there and hug him and remind him how much he was missing us. The Dream Master knew that with that dream, I would learn that what he really wanted me to do for him was to let go. You see, his lifetime with us was over. He hung around as long as he could, but eventually he had to leave and go live somewhere else. And then it made sense why I felt such a deep sense of loss for him. You see, all the years that we had him, he was a great dog, sure, but I never realized how attached we had become to each other. And that's really sad because at the moment of death, if you haven't gained that detachment, that loving detachment of being able to let go and let God love that soul that you once enjoyed in this life. If you can't do that, then it creates misery for both parties. Both feel a deep sense of loss. And this is sometimes called the sting of death because it happens when animals or people in our lives die and we suddenly discover we have this great attachment for them, which is causing us and them pain. You see, unconditional love is a better love because no matter how far apart we are, unconditional love doesn't cause pain. It doesn't cause suffering. It's this conditional love, this selfish love of trying to hold on and not realizing we are soul. We are free. And death is one way to experience that freedom, but we can also experience it in this lifetime while we're still alive through the spiritual teachings of Ethnic, or sometimes just by spontaneous dreams or other experiences when we're sleeping. You see, at my last lifetime, I remember how difficult it was for me to let go. God had given me that experience so that I would be able to help another soul in this lifetime, this Cupie, to let go of his attachment because I had gone through it before and I knew what it was about. And after that death, after I went through a grieving spell of trying to hold on to everyone I loved, the pain became so great that I had to let go. And when I let go, then I was calm. And for a while, nothing seemed to happen. I thought, okay, what now? Am I going to die a second time? And then I was in this golden mist of sparkling atoms of gold. And everywhere there was this gold sparkling fog, sparkling like snow on a sunny day. And I never realized until that moment how much God loves soul. I had never experienced that kind of deep, unconditional love before. And so, in this lifetime, when animals that we have as pets die, I find it very easy to let go because I know God will love them far more than I ever could. And I would never want anyone to hold me back. And likewise, I would never want to keep a beautiful soul like Cupie from this unbelievably pure love that God has for him. It's where he will be happy. We often look at death as being a dead end because we don't see what lies beyond it. But when we let go of the attachments and move on as three souls into many worlds of God where there are greater degrees of love than we have ever experienced here, then we know that this life is about learning to give and receive love. And at the moment of death, that soul begins a new journey with God to find new ways to go on new journeys and perhaps many more lifetimes to learn how to love like God loves. Because God's love changes us for the better in ways we may not recognize at first. Like I didn't realize that by understanding this transition of death takes us to a greater love than we have ever experienced before. I didn't realize then that it was preparing me for this moment with Cupid. And it was very difficult for us for a while to let go of him. But we got more dogs and more cats in our life, and they are such a blessing to us because they teach us so much about the importance of love and letting go. And Cupid in that dream, the Dream Master set up that experience to let us know that each of us was okay with letting go, that things would be all right. And that's how the Dream Master helped me and Cupid to let go of our attachments to each other so we can look forward to many more fantastic experiences filled with divine love. And you can see it in his eyes. He is such a loving dog. He was a great friend in life and in death. And now he's free. Free of sickness, free of suffering. Free for God to love him in ways I never could. And that heals that detached love that God has for us and which we develop for each other. That heals the heart. Well, attachment can hurt two hearts. This unconditional love of God heals that. But sometimes it can come through a dream.